Hey there, Algebra 2 students. Welcome back to Miss McGuire's classroom. I'm Miss McGuire, and today we're going to be studying a topic called completing the square. Remember to put your first and last name in the upper right-hand corner of your paper, followed by the period and the date. And then, of course, today we're doing Unit 3, Lesson 6. Again, our main topic is completing the square. The objective is I will complete the square and then rewrite a polynomial as a perfect square. So we're going to do some kind of like mathematical manipulation. We're going to complete the square and then we're going to factor the polynomial and rewrite it as a perfect square. So let's dive right in and I'll show you what I mean. So for the very first example, part A, I've got 5 handy steps. I've got 5 handy steps listed out for you, and we're going to follow them as we go. So we have x squared plus 14x plus blank. So as you can tell, this polynomial is in standard form, ax squared plus bx plus c, except c is missing. So what we have to do is we have to find the right c value that then will let us rewrite our polynomial as a perfect square. So to do this, the first thing you want to do is identify a and b. So a in this case is 1 because 1x squared. B is 14. We know that because of 14x. So a is always the coefficient of x squared. B is always the coefficient of x. Then you need to find b over 2 squared. So you're going to take b, you're going to divide it by 2, and you're going to square it. So 14 divided by 2 is 7. 7 squared is then 49. So then we rewrite our polynomial, x squared plus 14x plus, and then we use whatever b divided by 2 squared was and replace c, or c wasn't there. So we replace that blank spot with 49, whatever that number is. So x squared plus 14x plus 49. Now we're going to factor the polynomial. And here's the nice thing that happens when we complete the square. This is actually really easy to factor. And I know it's going to be easy because x times x will get me x squared. 7 times 7 is 49. And then positive 7x plus positive 7x will end up being positive 14x. And I'll show you how to check that in just a minute. So I know x times x is x squared. 7 times 7 is 49. And then positive 7x and positive 7x will get me 14x in the middle. Well, x plus 7 times itself, x plus 7 times x plus 7 is the same thing as saying x plus 7 squared. So x plus 7 squared. So what we've done is we've rewritten this polynomial as a perfect square. We had to find that c value, which we found by using b divided by 2 and then squaring it. And then we factored it and then rewrote it as a perfect square. So x squared plus 14x plus 49. I did a trick where I kind of factored that in my head, right? I said, I know that x times x will get me x squared. I know 7 times 7 is 49. And if I have positive 7x and positive 7x, I'm going to have 14x in the middle. So x times x is x squared. X times 7 is 7x. 7 times x is 7x. And 7 times 7 is 49. When that simplifies, I get x squared plus 14x plus 49. So I know that I'm right. I factored that correctly. So x plus 7 times x plus 7 are my factors. Now, if you don't like that process, if you don't want to do it in your head like that, then you factor by completing the square like we normally do, where we take a times c, then we rewrite bx using factors of a times c, so on and so forth. So I'm going to just run through that really quick. So a would be 1, c is 49. So we have 49. The factors of 49 are 1 and 49 and 7 and 7. Well, the factors 7 and 7 add or subtract to get me 14x in the middle. So I can use x squared plus 7x plus 7x plus 49. I put my parentheses like normal. with a plus sign in between at this step. Make sure you have a plus sign in between. No matter how many times I say that, kids always are still forgetting that plus sign in between. So make sure you have that plus sign in between. All right, I can factor out an x from x squared and 7, and I'm left with x plus 7. I can factor out a 7, and I'm left with x plus 7. Well, hey, my parentheses match. I have x plus 7 times x plus 7, or x plus 7 squared, which matches what we got up there. So for those of you who can do this factoring step in your head, you're perfectly fine to do that. Those of you who still want to factor by grouping, you're perfectly fine to do that as well. All right, so part B, x squared plus 26x plus blank. So the first thing we need to do is find that C value. To find that C value, the first thing we need is to know what A and B are. Well, in this case, A is 1 again, and B is 26. So now you take B, divide it by 2, and square it. 26 divided by 2 is 13. 13 squared is, I think it's 169. Yeah. So now, step 3, you rewrite the polynomial x squared plus 26x using this value for C. So x squared plus 26x plus 169. Now you need to factor it. So I'm going to have you do this step. Go ahead and factor that thing for me. You can either do it in your head or you can factor by grouping. Press pause and then press play when you're ready to check your work. So when you factored it, you should have gotten x plus 13 times x plus 13, which can be rewritten as a perfect square, x plus 13 squared. All right, x squared minus 20x plus blank. So find the value that needs to be put in that place of the blank. So find C using b over 2 and then square it. Then rewrite the polynomial using that value for C. Then factor it and write it as a perfect square. When you factor it though, this time watch out for that negative in front of the negative 20x and see how that impacts your answer this time. So go ahead and give this a shot. Remember, divide b by 2 and square it. Replace that blank, that C, with that number. And then factor it and rewrite it as a perfect square. Press pause and then press play when you're ready to check your work. All right, so hopefully your work matches mine. I identified A as 1, B as negative 20. I took B, negative 20. I divided it by 2, which is negative 10. Then I squared negative 10. Negative 10 times negative 10 is positive 100. So I rewrote my polynomial using positive 100 for my C value. I then factored it. Now this is where I had to watch out for my signs. So I know x times x is x squared. I know negative 10 times negative 10 is positive 100. But then negative 10x and negative 10x will add to get negative 20x for my middle term. Well, x minus 10 times itself can be rewritten as a perfect square, or x minus 10 squared. Moving on to the last example. X squared plus 11x plus blank. This time b is not an even number, but the process will still work. Go ahead and give it a shot and see what you get. Press pause and then press play when you're ready to check your work. All right, let's go ahead and talk about this one. So 11 divided by 2 does not simplify as a fraction. So I leave it as 11 over 2. I square that and I get 121 over 4. So I know that it's 121 over 4 because 11 over 2 squared is the same thing as 11 over 2 times 11 over 2. 11 times 11 is 121. 2 times 2 is 4. So I get 121 fourths as my C value. So I have x squared plus 11x plus 121 fourths. When I factor that, I get x times x, I know will give me x squared. I know 11 halves times 11 halves gets me 121 fourths because I just did that in the step above it. Then 11 halves x plus 11 halves x gets us 11x back. So now I rewrite this as x plus 11 halves squared. Let's make sure we're right real quick. Let's just double check this. So you can check it on the back of your paper at the bottom to the side. So x plus 11 halves squared is the same thing as x plus 11 halves times x plus 11 halves. So x times x will get us x squared. X times 11 halves is 11 halves x. 11 halves times x is 11 halves x. 11 halves times 11 halves is 121 fourths. So x squared, well, 11 halves x plus 11 halves x is still going to have an x. The coefficient will become 11 plus 11 over 2, or 22 halves. Well, 22 halves simplifies to 11x. And that matches what we started with. So we know that these were, in fact, the correct factors. All right, good job today. Thank you for your hard work on your notes. You're going to do your extra practice, then you're going to submit that to Schoology, and I'll see you back in class. Have a good day.